Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Tiny Book Lover, not Wine, Tea, and Paper, and I haven't addressed that at all. So maybe now's a good time to actually address that. So I changed my name from Wine, Tea, and Paper to Tiny Book Lover because I realized that I don't talk about wine, I don't talk about tea, and the only paper I talk about are books. So originally when I made Wine, Tea, and Paper, it was actually going to be like a planner channel. So I like talking about books way more, so we are doing a rebrand. You may have noticed that my intro and outro are different. I'm going to be doing a new logo and a new little guy for down in the corner. I think it's this corner, maybe it's that corner. But yeah, we're now Tiny Book Lover because I am tiny and I'm a book lover. Today, I'm going to be talking about my July book wrap-up. For July, I read 7 books. I DNF'd 2 books, and then 3 books are still ongoing. Like, I started them in July, and they weren't finished at the end of July. My average star rating is 3.89, so normally I would say my average star rating is 4, so I had a lot of books that didn't make the cut. You know what I mean? Like, I ranked a lot of books lower this month. I mostly read thriller books and YA books, which actually surprised me. I read 1,640 pages and listened to 30.8 hours of audiobook. Like always, I read the most audiobooks. Well, kind of. I read 3 audiobooks this month, July. 3 ebooks and only 1 physical book, which I thought that was pretty surprising. That ebooks are getting up there next to my audiobooks. I'm gonna go through the books from the first book that I read to the last book of the month that I read. I'll briefly talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd, and I won't talk about the books that are ongoing because you'll see them in August wrap-up. First, I listened to Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. This was actually Julia Whelan's second book that she wrote. She's normally an audiobook narrator. I've listened to a lot of her books that she's narrated before in the past, so it was really awesome to listen to her narrate her own book. Thank You for Listening is also about audiobook narrators, which is super cool. So the book is about an audiobook narrator who used to narrate romance books under like a pen name, like authors would write under a pen name, and now she no longer narrates romance books and she narrates more like science fiction and fantasy books. And then she kind of gets roped into a romance book project after she went to a romance book convention, and it's really cool to see her opinion change on romance books. The banter in that book between her and the main guy of this book was amazing. So I was laughing out loud. I was literally like so full of like, I don't know, like the warm feeling of reading this book. It was like reading a romance novel, but it like kind of isn't. I don't know. It's just so good. If you have the chance to listen to Thank You for Listening, absolutely do it, because it's just a whole nother level on top of the book, listening to Julia Whelan narrate the book about audiobook narrators. I don't know. Just, if you can read it, if you can listen to it, just go do it. 5 stars. It was my favorite book of July, for sure. Absolutely. Hands down. My only physical book was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I have been trying to read this book for probably a whole year. I started this book June of last year, and I set it aside, and it was just lying on my floor at the edge of my bed, and it was half under my bed, and I saw it and I was like, you know, I really need to pick this up and finish it or DNF it or shelve it or something. And then I just devoured the last of it. So I don't know why I waited so long to finish it because I really did enjoy it. This is the first book in the Cytonic series. I keep wanting to say trilogy, but I believe Brandon Sanderson is writing a 4th book. This follows Spensa Nightshade, and she's kind of following in her father's footsteps. He was a pilot for the Defiance. That's kind of like their group, like what their group is called. They live on another planet. It kind of takes place in space. There's lots of flying. There's battle, fighting aliens. I also did, like, I annotated this book a little bit, which was really fun and got me back into, like, annotating books and tabbing my books. I'm trying to find the quote that I like a whole bunch. So it was actually in the front of the book, and I was looking through the whole book, but Spensa's father tells her to claim the stars. And it's actually right here in the front, so I feel really silly about that. She really does claim the stars in this book. YA sci-fi is something I don't really read a lot of. I usually read a lot of like adult sci-fi, so it was fun to read a YA sci-fi. I really liked it, and I am planning on reading the 2nd book, Starsight, in August. Next, I listened to Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. I found this book from Read with Angie on Instagram. She read this book and she really liked it, and it got her like annotating books and like researching things inside of books. And I really wish I had a physical copy of this book, because I believe I would also be like tabbing things, highlighting things, making notes in the margins, because there's just so much to unpack in this book. It's a retelling of The Little Mermaid, but with African mythology and African folklore. And the mermaids in them are the Mami Water, which are African mermaids. The Mami Water, their job is to capture the soul of those who drowned in the sea. And it's really interesting like how the Mami Water came to be, and like the role that they play in this folklore and this mythology. And there's also lots of other like gods and creatures and things that are inside of this mythology as well. And it's really just like an adventure arc. As I was listening to this, I was like, wow, this is like the classic adventure story. Like the character goes through the same things as like an adventure hero would go through. I thought it was really well done. And the 2nd book, I don't remember what it's called right now. I believe it's coming out this year, or has already came out. I think it's coming out in the fall though. But I gave it a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I will be reading or listening to the 2nd one when it comes out. Then I read Upgrade. I got this book as an ARC from the publisher, and I was so excited when I got this book, because like getting an ARC, well, I didn't request this ARC, which blew my mind. I was actually, the publisher reached out to me and gave me the ARC. Like, have I made it? Maybe. I got the NetGalley widget from the publisher, and I actually got the widget back in January, and I was like, oh, I have plenty of time. And then like July came around, I was like, oh crap, I don't have any time. But I finished it just in time. I really liked it. I have Recursion on my shelf. I don't have Dark Matter, but I've heard that Dark Matter is better than Recursion, but Recursion is the one that I have. So I hope to read that one soon, because I really liked Upgrade. It's basically like a virus that upgrades your DNA. Yeah, I guess I'll say that with that, because I don't want to give away a lot, because there's a lot going on in this book. There's a lot of like science jargon, which kind of honestly dropped it a star for me, because there was so much going on, like terms that I didn't understand or know, and there was just too much. Like, Blake Crouch knows that his readers aren't scientists. So like, why is he doing this to us? That's what I want to know. But I liked it, and it's kind of buzzy right now. I've seen lots of other people posting about it, that they're reading it and like that they like it. They liked his other books. So I do think I'm gonna move Recursion up. Maybe on my fall TBR, I'll push for Recursion. But I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I said that. I'm like so rambling today. Then I read Influencer Island. It's kind of like a reality TV show type of book, but we don't get the reality TV show version of it. We get the story is told kind of in hindsight, so like after the fact, and it's told in podcast format. I haven't read a podcast book before, so that was interesting. It's kind of like if you were reading a podcast script. Like it says the character and then it says like what the character said. Then the next character's name is listed and what they said. It is literally like a script. And it was kind of, it put me off at first. And I was like, the whole book better not be like this. I was like, it better just be like parts of the chapters and then we get like regular dialogue. But the whole book is like this. But it grew on me. It really did. It kind of like you had no question who was talking. You like had no, like you knew exactly what was happening because you knew who was talking in that moment about what. And it jumps a lot between the multiple point of views, and because of the way that it's told, it works perfectly. Like it works really good. It was a good way to get inside of everybody's head without like the multiple POV, like omniscience, I think it's called. Hate it. I hate that one, and we'll talk more about that later because it comes up again later this month. But it was really cool. The author, Kyle Rutkin, he describes his book as The Hunger Games meets the Fire Festival. And I think that's a pretty good way to think of it. It talks a lot about social media, influencers, like what influencers would do to get their followers, trying to be like the most famous person on this island. So basically these influencers go to an island and they have to go through some like challenges to be the most famous, and it's all being run by an infamous artist, kind of like Banksy, but his name is Wyatt James. I don't know, it was really cool. There is some graphic like horror, like blood and stuff. It's definitely a horror. It's definitely a horror thriller book, but it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I actually really liked it, and this author has also wrote She Died Famous and TikTok Gone, which are also in this same like universe. So I will be reading those other 2 ones. I have TikTok Gone downloaded on my Kindle. I just need to find She Died Famous, and I think I'll enjoy those as much as I enjoyed this one. Then I listened to Hide by Kirsten White. This is a new book and it's pretty buzzy. It came out this year and it was on my most anticipated books list for 2022. I loved The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White, so much so that I bought her And Then I Darken series, but I haven't read it. And I also have Genevieve's Deception, and I haven't read that one, but I listened to this one and it has the things that I like the game type competition like Influencer Island had. I love those. I will read any book that has a game or a competition or a reality TV show series, anything like that, I will read it. So it had that aspect. It had an amusement park carnival setting, and it was a reality TV show, and it was horror. And I was like, okay, that all sounds good. But it was told in the third person omniscient POV. Hated it. Listening to it, I think made it worse. Because I didn't like following them all around. Like the main character, you know who the main character is, and like we kept switching to other people's point of view, and it just, I did not like it at all. And then I feel like the ending was not good. Like it was kind of like still an open-ended question. Like all of this stuff happened and this big thing happened, and then they're like, okay, and we don't, it wasn't a good ending to the story. Like I had so many questions at the end that I think could have been addressed, could have been answered, could have been hinted upon, but nothing. It just ended like that. So I didn't like that at all. But I did like parts of it. I liked that it wasn't an amusement park. I liked that it was a game competition style premise. So I still gave it a 3.75 stars, but I really don't think I'm recommending this book. Then I read The Compeer. I believe this was in my haul video last month, and I got all 3 of the books in the trilogy from the author off of TikTok. She was doing this like thing where all 3 of the books were free, and she's an indie author, which I was like, okay, great, like I'm gonna read these and I'm gonna support her. I really liked the premise of these books. There are 4 kings, and they're each for a season. Like there's a winter king, there's a summer king, a spring king, a fall king, and they each rule their own season. And they have to take a wife during their season, and the wife helps control their power, because during their season their power is the strongest. So they need a wife to kind of siphon some of their power, and she holds it during the season, and then when the season's over, they end the marriage. And then the wife becomes a duke, and she gets like, she's paid, she doesn't have to get married to a king again, like she can't. And then eventually the king will find their compeer, which is basically their fated mate. And when they do that, they don't have to take a wife every season, they're just married for life. And then once the compeer and the king have a child, the compeer and the king go to heaven, and then the new child becomes the king, and the cycle just keeps going over. I thought that was really cool. However, this book could have benefited from an editor. If there was one, it needed looked over again. There were lots of grammar problems, there were lots of spelling issues. The writing was very juvenile. It was a lot of dialogue. It was a lot of showing and not telling, which is my pet peeve, when they just tell us what happened and they don't show us what happens at all. Most of it was dialogue based. There was no like action, and when there was action, it was resolved on the next page. There was no build up to anything, and I really don't want to bash this author, but it was not ready to be published. I liked the idea of it, but I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I should have DNF'd it, but I didn't. I wanted to see what would happen. And then I started to read The Spring Queen, which is the second book, and I was like, well, maybe her writing has improved since the first one. It did not. I definitely DNF'd that one. I will not be reading the third one in this book. However, I will be reading her newest book that she's writing, because I think this author has lots of potential. Like, I love her story ideas, and her characters are great. They just need a lot of development and a lot of fleshing out still. So I have hope that she will get better as she keeps writing. So I will read her next one, but I'm not going to have high expectations because I don't want to be disappointed. But I will read Jamie Applegate Hunter's next book. I believe it's in the ARC process right now. I signed up for an ARC, but then I don't think I'm the best candidate for an ARC because I did not like her first series. I also DNF'd The Last One Standing. I was given this book for a book tour, and it has the same problems as The Compeer, but worse. So it's very juvenile. It's not formatted correctly for an ebook. There are lots of spaces randomly in the middle of words, and then it spells lots of words incorrectly. And I was like, oh, maybe that's just like how this universe spells things, but it's anything with a double L. There's only one L. So like kill would be K-I-L, will is W-I-L, fall is F-A-L. Like, even in the middle of a word, if there's supposed to be a double L, there's only one. And it was just annoying the crap out of me. The characters are very juvenile. Like, so these are children and they're cussing. Like, these are like 10-year-old children and they're cussing, but they're talking so juvenilely, and I couldn't get past like page 8. So I DNF'd that one. So I don't know. I mean, I had some good books, but I also had some, ooh, that was thunder. But I also had some really bad ones, and it just, yeah, it really tanked my average star rating. I could go on a rant about all the bad books that I read this month, but I won't, because I like really hate bashing authors, because I know how difficult it is for them to like come up with this idea and like write it. But yeah. So here's to hoping that August is better. So far it is better because it's August 7th right now. I don't know when you guys will see this, hopefully in the next couple days or so. If you guys liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, give me a follow. I've had lots of new followers in the last couple days, and it's really awesome. I love it when you guys let me know that you're new here, so I can say hi and welcome you guys to the channel. But yeah, go ahead, like this video. Tell me what your favorite book of the month was for July. Mine was clearly Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. Yeah, and I'll see you guys in the next one.